Chill or Be Chilled by TotalSkeletonTrash. Chapter 4, in which an irritable parrot threatens to start some sort of war, probably. After feeding time, you and Undyne are officially free agents until it's dinner time for the penguins. When Undyne knows a little more about all the exhibits, you'll start to split up and wander around in the public areas, answering questions. But for now, you're still showing her how to take care of all the different animals, in case she's needed in a pinch, and explaining things to her so that she actually can answer some visitors' questions. There's still a lot to catch up on. In the old days underground, Undyne has explained, unintelligent beasts were fairly rare. The monsters that looked like animals were, well, still monsters, like Lesser Dog. Even the spiders were intelligent entrepreneurs. The thought makes you shudder slightly. As much as you've kept an open mind to monsters since the day the barrier fell, God, it was just over a year ago now, spiders unnerve you. Well, as long as they didn't set up shop in your house, they were probably okay. Was that a spider entrepreneur joke you just thought of? You'd have to tell Sans. Or, you quickly amend, any other lover of fantastic jokes. Undyne's not paying as much attention as usual as you go through the rounds, too excited about the prospect seeing everyone on your lunch break. That's understandable though. She's been so focused and enthusiastic these past 2 weeks that you can't help but feel she deserves a little slack. You decide she should get a treat for learning so much already. And yeah, for dropping the teasing for 3 hours. Over the last 2 weeks, you've already showed her the tropical tank, the tidal tank, the stingray exhibit, the local creatures section, and of course, all the big guys you might be responsible for feeding. The sea otters, harbor seals, sea lions, and the belugas, who got fed by other employees in much the same way you cared for the penguins. Undyne didn't know much about marine biology, of course, but she could do something terribly useful. She could just intuit how the aquatic creatures were feeling, if they were sick or hungry or scared. Since the penguins weren't the most emotionally available little guys, and the fish even less so, this had already turned out to be a lifesaver. Even if the aquarium had hired her just for people to gawk at, please don't make that be the case. They were going to make their money back on her. You just knew it. Come on, let's go learn something new, you urge. You haven't seen the jungles of the Amazon room yet, right? Undyne shakes her head quickly, her sudden eagerness reminding you of her friend Papyrus' enthusiasm. You grin. She's going to like this. Guiding her through the Disney tunnels, another reference you hadn't managed to explain properly to her yet, you push the door open very carefully to the heat and humidity of an artificial jungle. Oh, gross! Too hot! She complained. You snickered. Come on, you big wimp. You can't hide in a cold cave with the penguins forever. Come on, I want you to see these guys. Watch your head, though. There's... Ah! Undyne leaps backwards, startled by a scarlet macaw swooping overhead. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there's a glowing spear clutched in her hand, and she's crouched defensively. You freeze still and then glance around quickly. Thank God you're out of eyesight of any visitors. You can just see the headline now. Fish monster threatens innocent children. Is your family next? Hey, you whisper. You're okay. Just a bird, like our penguins, just in the air, you know? And redder. They're allowed to fly around free in here. You say, soft and soothing. Undyne holds her defensive pose for another excruciatingly long second. Then suddenly the spear vanishes. I know what birds are. Obviously, nerd. I was just startled. She grumbles self-consciously. You swallow roughly. You don't want to know what's happened to her to leave her so on edge. Well, you do want to know. It's just upsetting to think about the fact she's been hurt before. Well, bud, I'm glad to see that you'll be able to keep me safe if they ever go all Hitchcock on us. Undyne snorts a laugh out at that and relaxes. You rack your brains to try to figure out how she doesn't know what shots are, but she does know about Alfred Hitchcock, then mentally shrug. You know that the monsters you've met so far all seem heavily invested in VHS tapes, so there's really no making sense of how they consume media. Hey, you good to keep going? You check after another long moment. Undyne nods. I'm ready, just waiting for you, loser. You've never heard as much affection in the words nerd and loser as when Undyne says them. Awesome. Come on, I want to show you something really cool. You drag her over to the source of the sound of trickling water that echoes through the jungle room. A deep pool has been installed under artificial tree roots, with a thick sheet of plate glass forming a retaining wall so guests can see the fish inside. Undyne walks over, her brow furrowing as she stares at the fish. For right now, you don't tell her anything, just let her gather what she can about them using whatever magic it is that she uses. They're called piranhas! The hours until your lunch break had slid away. You'd texted your boss asking if Undyne could take an hour instead of your normal half, since it was a relaxed day and she'd been doing awesome. Your boss had answered quickly. You both could have an hour-long break, not to worry, and she'd just call if there were any fires that needed putting out. So, now you were in the entrance hall, near the ticket takers and the giant jellyfish display, listening to Undyne gush about her discoveries. You'd only just gotten the chance to introduce yourself to Papyrus and Frisk when Undyne had launched into her tirade. That's neat, sweetheart, Alphys says with significantly less excitement. It's not that she's not excited, just that nobody could be as excited as Undyne right now. Frisk has to hop up to catch Undyne's attention. They begin to sign quickly. Frisk is saying that they think sharks are way cooler than piranhas. You nearly jump out of your skin. Sans has managed to sidle up behind you without you noticing. He's the perfect height to murmur into your ear. You're about to scold him, but you're also thankful that he seems willing to translate. God, you wish you remembered more signs than just the dirty ones. That had been hilarious to learn when you were younger, but now, well, you couldn't tell a kid to go off and fuck a tree. Thanks, you say, practically drowned out by Undyne's dissent. No, you don't understand. They're way smaller than sharks, but they're so tough. Super cool, pal. No, Sans, you don't get it. Reed says they can eat a cow in like 1 second. You clear your throat. That's not exactly what I said. You point out. Well, I, for one, also think that it's wonderful, Undyne. I would be thankful for the chance to meet your fish friends after we eat. Maybe you could guide us and teach us about the wonders of these creatures? Well, Papyrus's enthusiasm puts even Undyne's delighted excitement to shame. Undyne looks at you with big puppy dog eyes. Papyrus, quickly figuring out that you're the person who can make this happen, does the same. Those are actual stars dancing in his eye sockets. You consider it. You don't need to feed the penguins again for another few hours, and your embarrassing walkie-talkie has been basically silent all day. So all you're supposed to be doing is to continue training Undyne until you hear otherwise. She does need to learn about the subtleties of being a guide, you suppose. Sure, dude. It's good practice anyway. You're gonna have to show guests around eventually. But come on, we've only got 45 minutes already. We'd better eat. Did you guys bring food? You look up at the small cluster of monsters and Frisk, hanging out in the aquarium entrance. Since it's break time, you and Undyne have pulled jackets over your blue shirts and are no longer distinguishable as employees, just as people who have terrible taste in shoes and pants. Nah, we're taking you out, Sans says. You glance over at him. Don't worry, it's like a block away. An old buddy owns it, Groby's. Great burgers. He does human food now too, I guess. We all love it. Suddenly, you feel awkward. Just because you usually had lunch with Undyne these days didn't mean that you could just crash this group's good time. After all, well, they clearly all went way back and you just plopped in there. You know, there's probably some paperwork I could catch up on. You mumble. Maybe you should go, Undyne. Have a good time and I'll make sure that both our care logs are in good shape. What? Undyne looks at you, perplexed and a little hurt. Don't be such a dweeb. Please, do come, human. Undyne has told me about so many of your great feats with the fancy birds, And then my brother told me all about the kind human he met at the dog repair store. I've been so excited to meet you. Papyrus begs. Frisk nods quickly, clinging to Papyrus's leg. I just don't want to crash your party, you say quietly, feeling guilty that you'd upset Undyne now. Hey. Something cool and hard slides around your wrist. You look around to see white phalanges encircling your forearm, tugging your hand away from the keychain you've been reaching for. We all want you there. Promise. This isn't a monsters-only reunion. Look, the kiddo's psyched to have another human around. Sans says calmly. Frisk beams, clinging to Papyrus's femur and nodding. Besides, I owe you a big one. You really tried to stick your neck out for me and the dog. Least I could do is get you a burger. You didn't even let me do anything. You argue, but you can't keep the smile off your face. Yeah, but you did something anyway. Sans says quietly. You recall the text from last night that he knows that you told the receptionist that you were considering jumping his bones, and you feel that dreaded new sensation of burning cheeks. Sans, why is the human changing colors? You aren't doing magic, are you, brother? Papyrus is as innocent as a newborn kitten. Not your kitten, maybe, but one that didn't take offense to all your blood being inside your body. Undyne, who is cackling like a madwoman, is less so. Alphys has to save you in the end. Let's go, guys. Leave poor Reeds alone, Papyrus, she says, holding the door open. I am not bothering her. I am simply concerned for her health. Papyrus insists, striding out the door and carrying the clinging Frisk with him. Undyne smirks at you for a long second, then follows them. It's just you and Sans in the lobby now. He's still holding onto your wrist. Seriously, don't make me grill you on this one anymore. Come get a bite, he says firmly. You finally smile and acquiesce. Fine, let's get going then. I still want to help Undyne show you guys around, so we gotta be on time. You say brightly. Sans beams up at you and finally lets your wrist go. It's funny, you think. Sans was incredibly gentle with your arm, but you somehow got the sense that if he really wanted to hold on, nothing could have pried those bones off you. You kind of like that. Yikes. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, hit the like button to let me know and subscribe to see what I make next. Links in the description lead to the original fic posted on AO3, as well as my Patreon and Ko-fi. If you like my stuff, please consider supporting me. Every little bit helps. Lastly, if you have a request for a recording, whether a one-shot or a series, let me know in the comments. I also do commissions, details of which are on my Patreon. So keep in touch. Bye!